I'm good, man. How's it going? You well?
Man, thank you for taking time to chat with me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Not at all, not at all. Where are you dialing in from?
Over in Ireland, Belfast.
All right, cool. Nice one.
I take it you're over in Scotland.
Yes, yeah, I'm in Glasgow.
Fuck, you're not too far away, then are you?
Yeah, and every time you sit back, it does look like a shark fin.
You just have to show
Love it.
everyone. It's a photo. You can't unsay it, can you?
No, no, not at all. I'm just thinking back to when we were doing the score for the film. My composer used to kind of take the mic and say, like, come on, play something. And then he'd start playing the Jaws theme. That's all I can
Well,
see.
this may inspire your next movie. Like some sort of shark, monstery Sharknado type sort of asylum movie.
Totally, totally. Who knows? Inspiration can come from anywhere.
And I had the pleasure of watching Mercy Falls. Actually loved it. It was one of them movies that I skipped the trailer for and was just gonna dive right in because some
Cool.
trailers these days give away half the movie.
Totally, yeah, they do.
So,
Guilty, guilty.
so like if you've got a horror thriller going on, I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna bounce in and just see how this plays out. And it was awesome, man. I loved it.
Thank
But
you.
what inspired you to create the story? Was there any influence behind it, or was it just your imagination, man?
Um, well, I wanted to do a survival horror in the woods. And the last film I did was a Christmas film, and I wanted to kind of do something completely different. And I was aware that it had to be something commercial. And when you're making an indie film, the most commercial projects you can make is either a Christmas movie or a horror film. So obviously we had to go to horror. So it was just kind of thinking about what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the outdoors. I'm like survival movies. So I really wanted to make sure that I kind of went down that route. So yeah, so the obvious cabin friends, often cabin in the woods type kind of film. And I think when I was starting out, one of the earliest sort of little amateur films I ever made was a bunch of friends going off into the wilderness, and it all goes terribly wrong. And that film was terrible because it was, I was a teenager when I made it, but I'd managed to kind of sort of restore it just so it was saved somewhere. And I was kind of watching it, and I was kind of dreading watching all the mistakes and all the kind of things that go wrong with it. But then I kind of noticed that what I picked up on was, oh, I remember what I was thinking about when I did this. I remember what we were trying to do. So almost like I took the basic building blocks from that film and thought, let's take what I was trying to say and see if I can develop it further now that I'm 20 years older and a lot more mature as a filmmaker, and let's see what happened. So there was a building block from something I'd done before, but the bare bones of certain type of people going off into the woods, and it just kind of spiraled from that and became its own thing. Really, trying to make it a little different, but adhering to the rules that come with the formula of making a slasher in the woods. You've got to do certain things and to be accepted by the audience, I suppose. But you try and inject your own interest and your own style into the genre without without reinventing the genre. That's not what we're trying to do.
The thing that really caught my eye about the movie, or loads of things caught my eye, but the scenery, man. Like, did you have to do loads of research to find the perfect location, or is that at your back door?
Um, a bit of both. Um, some of the locations I knew where they were because I like to go around Scotland. I've filmed in various parts of Scotland, so you kind of take things on board as you're moving around. You go, okay, I'm going to remember that. But then it becomes a practical exercise of how do you get 40 people and all the vans and all the kit and everything to these locations. So at that point, you then have to start going, okay, well, that location I want to go to, we absolutely cannot get to. So then you start to looking around for other locations that kind of fit the bill. It kind of comes with what does the scene need and what can we actually get to. So that was always that kind of sometimes can pop up a few challenges for you. I mean, there's a couple of occasions that we were kind of just like we were everywhere trying to find the right place ahead of time, right down to like days before we started filming. There was a couple of occasions we still didn't have because we hadn't quite managed to find the ideal spot. But that comes with the territory. But no, it wasn't too challenging. The good thing about Scotland is that there's always going to be somewhere that's going to fit the bill.
And what I really liked as well was you managed to make the scenery sort of go with the tone of the movie. So when they first start out and they're going hiking, it looks like a fun place to be. Like that woods would be really cool, get a bunch of people, a party, and all this. And then once shit hits the fan, so to speak, the woods become very, very eerie and a dark place.
Oh, totally. Well, yeah. Well, I suppose it's picking the right location, and I suppose the way you shoot it is kind of informs that as well. To kind of make sure you're keeping to the tone. But yeah, the great thing about locations is I was looking for something that didn't feel like just the woods down at the end of the street where you walk your dog. We wanted the grandeur because it's a low budget indie film, so you're looking for ways to really bring scale and production value to the screen. And if you're doing an outdoor film here or in Ireland, um, you know the wilderness, which is not very far away from any given place in Scotland, is very accessible, and it's a great way to really sell the world and the vibe that you're trying to create. So yeah, the location does a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting.
Um, I'm going to assume Scotland and it's in the woods, so it was freezing, right?
Oh, aye, Baltic.
Because there's scenes where the character Carla is running around in just a t-shirt, and I'm thinking, geez, she must be freezing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was in March. It was wet an awful lot of the time. Yeah, and yeah, it's challenging. You've got scenes in the lagoon at night, which are a bit quite unforgiving. But it's all about kind of planning it correctly, having the right people there for safety, and making sure everyone's looked after correctly. So when people are kind of putting themselves into the elements like that or into water, that you're able to kind of do what you need to do, get them out, get them warm, and you want to kind of you want to kind of film it as quickly as you can, because the one thing you don't want to do is do one take, put them in the water, take them out, take half an hour to reset the next shot, and they go get dry and then have to go through it all over again, because that's torture. Once you're wet in the water, you want to stay there until it's done, because your body temperature reset. So it's all these things that you need to think about, and take the appropriate action. But yeah, Scotland isn't the most forgiving place when it comes to filming in the outdoors.
And just in case anyone's sort of thinking, is that the main thing I can take from the movie? There is violence, there is suspense, there's everything going on there. It's just, I don't know, maybe because I'm like old and like a dad and stuff. Now I'm just looking at people like, damn, put on a coat, you know?
Yeah, I get. I remember. I seem to remember my last film was this Christmas film, and there's a scene where the two characters are walking through like a blizzard, and some older people get really upset that it's like, why doesn't he button up his coat?
That's me.
Totally. But yeah, I can't think what my point was there, but I suppose it's you're trying to kind of be a bit more. You're trying to be realistic in how you do things, and try and have characters take the realistic kind of decision making. I mean, like some of the characters in this make horrendous decisions, but I feel those are the decisions that you would take when under that kind of stress, in that kind of environment that you're not used to dealing with, these sort of insane circumstances. So,
Yeah.
we don't always make our best decisions when under pressure, which is kind of what the movie's about.
And the cast then as well, the cast was perfect. Especially Lauren, the lead actress. Like, how did you manage to find the perfect cast, so to speak?
I love to say just lucky. We had we had a really good casting director on board the film who went looking for all these different parts and did an incredible job of bringing these sort of bringing someone with a lot of experience like Lauren to the table, and then finding all these other new actors that were also incredibly strong at what they do, and building this sort of ensemble. I mean, we looked at thousands of submissions. I was kind of knocked to one side by just how many people were sort of submitted by their agents for the film. And so you're kind of trying to look at everyone. You're trying to kind of get see what everyone's kind of bringing to the table. So we did a lot of. I mean, we're kind of just coming out of the second lockdown at that point, so there was a lot of. It was all self tapes and Zoom calls and things. So you're looking at a lot of that, a lot of footage, and sort of pairing people up. And we had everybody test with Lauren to kind of see if the chemistry between everyone was correct. And so a bit of a process to be honest, but we got everyone we wanted for the right roles. Even though interestingly enough, two of the guys actually were submitted for different roles, and when I watched the tapes, I was like, hang on a minute, that's such and such, and I'm looking at one actor for a particular part, and then you kind of realize actually, hang on a minute, they should be that other part. But yeah, magic happens. A lot of chance as well. But that's kind of the fun of the whole thing.
And the looks of it as well, it looks like everyone like partook in their own sort of stunt department too, because you know the way some people can be sort of like, oh, you can easily tell that's a stunt double. It looks like you made everyone just do everything for real, man.
Yeah, it was pretty mean that way.
Face.
Yeah, totally. I mean, everybody that had stuff to do really threw themselves into it. And Nicolette in particular really threw herself into all the action and all the stunts. I believe she had a fear of heights before the film, and she has this climbing scene to do. So the climbing team sort of took her to like a climbing wall and sort of put her through her paces and kind of combat that fear. I mean, obviously, she didn't do all of it. She did. We were very fortunate that we had a stunt double who was a climbing expert, who was very similar in hair color, build, height, etc. Who did a lot of the climbing, but partly for timing reasons, because what you don't want to do is have to take forever to get these into a bit at a time and put an actor through that who isn't comfortable. But to Nicolette's credit, we actually did put her on the rock wall in a couple of shots. And yeah, it looks great. But yeah, they all kind of they all went through their paces. They all get battered and bruised as you do on these things. But yeah, no, it was we didn't have to, with the exception of the really tricky stuff, like the climbing, we didn't have to rely on body doubles and trickery to get around it. They all were very up for it.
That's what you want from a cast. You don't need a cast full of divas.
No, you certainly do not.
Certainly like the world of like directing, like directors, screenwriters, writers, actors. Who are your inspirations?
How long you got? I mean, obviously the obvious ones like Christopher Nolan, but Christopher Nolan before he was Christopher Nolan. I'm a big fan of Insomnia, which is one of his earliest films with Al Pacino and Robin Williams. And a big fan of Tony Scott. I loved all those kind of movies like Denzel Washington and whatnot. But then got kind of back more to my Scottish roots. I'm a big Bill Forsyth fan as well, so I love Local Hero. So yeah, kind of a bit of an eclectic, an eclectic taste, but kind of very populist, genre driven, which is representative of the films that I make.
And the release of Mercy Falls is just around the corner. I think it is
Monday the 6th.
next week.
Yep.
Oh,
Days away. days away.
What so far? How have you found the reaction from audiences, reviewers that have watched it so far?
Well, it's one of those things when you kind of release a film, and I learned this on the last one. Being the last one was my first feature. You kind of learn that, excuse the dog. It's going to happen at some point today. But yeah, you kind of you're at the mercy of the world when you do that, and it's a very sharp learning curve. But I've been very fortunate with the response to this. And it's always a bit of a mixed bag, and you kind of come to learn that. But no, it's great when you read audience reviews or critics that have really understood, not just kind of gone glazed over what it is, and they get all the subtlety of it and all the subtext, and when things like that really sort of speak to people and they're actually able to reiterate it, you're like, oh, good, I wasn't completely mad, and I haven't made that too subtle. People actually have picked up on kind of some of the more subtler themes that you're trying to talk about, because we are making a sort of paint by number slasher movie, but we're also kind of injecting sort of slightly more cerebral themes into it, and you kind of hope that you've done enough that the audience are able to kind of pick up on that and kind of and go with it, and not just label you as boring. But no, the response has been great to this, and I'm really thrilled with it. And it was really cool when to hear from people, because it came out in the cinema in September. So it was a nice little sort of preamble to this. So I'm kind of really excited just to have it sort of unleashed digitally, so people can kind of fully experience it. So, but again, it's you do what you do, or you do what you can, and then it's my work here is done. So hopefully enjoy.
And one of the things I noticed while watching the movie, I'm sure this was intentional as you're writing it, but there's not one good decision made in the movie.
Nope. Hey, yeah, there's a scene in it, and I kind of there's that scene when they're about to leave and about to set off on their journey, and Carla, who they brought along as a sort of outdoor sort of guide, kind of says, "Have you set an emergency plan?" And they all look at her rather dumbfounded. And that's kind of, for me, it's a pause moment. It's like, you're all going to die, and you certainly all deserve to die at this point. Uh, but again, it's I'm not saying it's a super realistic take on that kind of event, but the decision making for me is very realistic, and I've tried to kind of, you've put a bunch of people out there that are not experts, are not hikers, they're not used to that world at all, so you're trying to figure out the decision making tree of people that don't know what they're doing, which is what leads to dumb decisions, and how they adapt to that. But yeah, decision making on their part is terrible. That's part of the drama. He's like, don't go there. Why would you go over there? It's like, no. And when you're in the cinema and you hear people shouting at them at the screens, like, don't do that. But that's why you go to see a scary movie.
There was like towards the end, when you got like two characters, they're in the cabin, and then they're like, you know what? Let's get on the down low here. And I was like, now is not the time for this. Carry on.
Well, that's an interesting one, because there's a lot going on at that point. You've got Rona's character, who's sort of descending into this sort of primal realm of thinking, and it's almost like honing your senses and sort of almost seeing that character as prey. And bless him, he's seeing it as the ultimate romantic moment that's finally arrived, and he's got blinkers on to everything else around him. But then, of course, on the flip side of that, the person that you're saying, wait a minute, you've got someone after you, you've got that person who's sort of observing the whole time and sort of allowing. There's a sort of aspect to the movie at the later stage of the movie where you see that character almost allowing them to survive, allowing people to live until she decides to interrupt. And it's very much about manipulation of the lead and really sort of screwing with her psyche. So everything is very calculated from that character's perspective.
It's a brilliant movie.
Thank
It's
you.
really hard to talk about it and not give anything
I
away because,
know, I know. I've realised there's like, oh, hang on a minute, don't get too spoilery.
yeah, I was like, that's why I was like, don't watch the trailer, just go in. Like I
Yeah,
went in,
yeah,
I loved it.
excellent. I'm glad. I'm glad because yeah, trailers are tricky these days. You've got to have certain things that you can show and certain things that you can't show, and it's kind of yeah, you run the risk, particularly in a movie like this, you run the risk of being a bit spoilery. But hopefully that it's just it doesn't sit with them enough to remember the obvious things. But yeah, no, I'm glad you sat down and watched it completely cold because it's like okay, what's this?
That's
It's
the
not.
best way to watch movies. I haven't watched trailers in quite a while, to be honest. I would usually just be like, right, if the synopsis grabs me, I'm like, let's do it.
It's a good way to be. Yeah, I I I I, I am definitely with you on that one. Yeah.
Um, After Mercy Falls, I know it's early doors, but what's next for you?
Um, it is a question that comes up quite quickly when you finish a film. It's like, oh, give me a minute to breathe, for Christ's sake. But so you're always thinking of it because you're always trying to come up with a clever answer to that impossible question. Uh, I like to move around genres. I like to kind of be as free as I can. But this has definitely opened the door for the survival theme. I think there's a lot more to say, a lot more areas to sort of to head in. So possibly another survival movie of sorts. We shall see. Possibly another horror. Possibly another Christmas movie. Um, it's that kind of
Christmas
thing
horror
where
survival.
yeah, that suggestion has come up. But yeah, just throw some mud at the wall, see what sticks, and yeah, I'm about making. I want to make various types of movies, tell different stories. So whatever it is, I'm up for it.
And on our final note, to anyone who hasn't seen Mercy Falls or heard of it, how would you pitch it to them?
I would say Mercy Falls is your sort of quintessential slasher in the woods movie. It gives you everything that you expect, everything you want, and more. It's got a great cast. It's got incredible locations with beautiful cinematography. It's got a great music score, and it's a romp. It's the ideal Friday night horror movie. Perfect for
And
Halloween, even though
I'll
Halloween's a Tuesday.
back that up for cinematography. The cinematography is on point.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. My director of photography is a man called John Rhodes, who has been doing this for 30 plus years. He's seen it all, been there, done it, and his main focus is to make it as beautiful as possible, whether it's sinister or if it's romantic, whatever. So he just brings that particular set of skills, and just brings you, just is able to produce a beautiful movie. I'm
And not to
incredibly
mention the
grateful.
director is talented too.
Sorry.
And not to mention the director is talented too.
Oh yes, of course, of course.
Oh
I
yeah,
just
I can't forget the name.
yeah, stand there and point. Make it more, make it prettier, but do it quicker. No, no, I've got a great team around me that really respond to the kind of the type of moves I want to make and the way I want to make them. So, and they're all
Well,
able to,
congratulations anyway on the release of
deliver.
Merciful. It's a brilliant movie, and anyone who hasn't seen it, I'd very much recommend. The weather is to be terrible all weekend, especially over here. So there you go, you got your movie sorted, guys.
Totally. Thanks again, Jeff. Cheers.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one, man.
Absolutely.